Hey everybody, it's Greg here again. So I got this fridge. It's a Frigidaire fridge. It doesn't really matter too much. But basically, the guy that bought this off me wants the handles to be on the other side. So instead of it opening up this way, he wants it to open the other way. And on this fridge, we can do that. And I'll show you how. Okay, so the best way to tell whether your fridge could actually have a door swing done to it or not is usually on the fridge door, you'll have a little plug, and it's kind of hard to see, but the little plug, that's where the screw is going to go for the bottom of the handle. If you have that, you can do a door swing. Some of them are hidden, and some of them are actually on the side of the fridge, but these guys are right out front. So let's start. Make sure you grab onto the door, and then we'll just lift that door off when we get there. So we want to put this somewhere where, actually we'll just put it on the ground, where we can get access to the bottom of the door and the top of the door, because we're going to need both. Okay, so we just moved over to the other side of the top of the fridge, and there's these little plugs. So I just use a flat blade screwdriver, or you can use a pick, or anything you can really get underneath there, but they're really easy to pop out. So we'll pop those two out, and then we can move on to the bottom door. Okay, so now for the bottom door, what I like to do right now, just, I don't know why, but I always have, is take the handle off of the door here. It just seems to make things a little easier for me anyway. So it's just a Robertson screwdriver. If you don't have a Robertson, these screws are kind of a double-headed screw, so you can also use a Phillips. It's not going to grab quite as well as a Robertson, but so just take those two screws out, and then what you're going to do is, okay, so pull it back, slide it off to the side, and there's a screw that holds on this bottom part here, but it slides into a slot, just like that. So you just slide it down and off that screw there. While I'm here, I'm going to pull this little plug off of this side. If I can get in there. And take the bolt off this side. This one's still Robertson or Phillips. That's all you're going to use for this whole thing is a 3/8 socket or wrench, a Phillips or a Robertson screwdriver, and a flat blade, or you know, even a knife or something, just something to pick those little picks out of there. Okay, so there's also two little filler cap on this side. So we'll move these over here. We're just moving everything from one side over the other. It's pretty straightforward once you start looking at it and see what has to happen, I guess. So now we're going to take the bottom door off. So back to our 3/8. And sometimes you need a wrench here. Sometimes these are tight, but we'll see. Oh, that's not too bad. So we'll take that off. And then the door is going to want to fall right off, so don't pull this out quite yet until you're holding the door. Then you can pull that little guy out and pull the whole door off. If you have, obviously, stuff in your fridge doors, take it all out. You don't have to take the shelves and everything out of your door, but take all the food out. Just make it easier on yourself. We're going to take off the hinge right here. There's 3 screws They'll move it over to the other side. They keep there's 3 screws on the other side instead of just little plugs, because they need that to hold this centerpiece to the outside. These ones on this side don't have to be backed out, don't have to come completely off. They just slide out. And sometimes there's a little shim, I guess, in behind that. Make sure it gets transferred over to the other side. So then we'll take the screw, the one on the inside we'll take right out. And the screws are the same from side to side, but I always move over this other screw, not sure why, but always have. So run that in, and we can run these other 2 in because we don't need them sticking out anymore. And like I said, make sure you put these back in because it kind of holds together the fridge a little bit. Once we get those together, we can loosen off the 2 on the other side. Like I said, we don't need to back them, or you don't need to take them right out, we just need to back them off a little bit. Usually I'd be using my drill, but it's a little easier to show people when you don't have a big drill in the way. Okay, so we'll put that little shim on there. So all I did is I flipped around the hinge, and now it fits on the other side. So don't tighten those up yet, but just make them tight enough so it's not going to fall off. Make sure you put this one in before you tighten either of those ones, because then at least you'll know everything's lined up. Okay, so we're down at the bottom hinge. So this little piece that sticks up here is going to have to transfer over to this other hole when it goes over to that side. So I just do that right now, just so I know it's done. This one always seems to be a little tighter. Make sure, see there's little washers in here. That's to shim up the bottom door. Make sure that those stay in there. If you put the door on and it seems like it's way too high or something like that, you can take that door back off and take off one of those shims, or take off a couple of those shims, or add another shim if it's needed. But obviously somebody at one point found that this door needed that. So anyway, there's 2 bolts underneath here that connect this hinge to the fridge. So we'll take those off and we'll move that over to the other side. All right, so what we're looking at is the bottom of the freezer door. So we have to move the handle over to this other side, and we got to move this little, it's like a spacer, I guess, that sits on that little piece that's on the fridge there. They go together anyway. It's also a stopper. That's what this piece right here does. It stops the fridge from opening too far. So we'll take this guy off, and this is just a couple more screws. Watch, sometimes the shims, like those ones that were on the bottom door, can stick to this because they have grease on them. So make sure that none of the little shims stick to this. All right, so the little Frigidaire symbol here, just peel that off. It's just stuck on there with like a double-sided kind of tape, and you see there's a hole right there. That is where the other handle hole is going to go. So take that handle off of there. Make sure you kind of keep the screws in order here. I know we got a lot of screws everywhere right now, but that's how this job goes. So again, we'll slide the handle off to the side. push up on this side and the handle comes right off. So we'll take out this little piece that holds the top of the handle, or screw I guess, put it in the other side. Then we can put the handle onto this and slide it down and put that in place. It's going to be kind of a little tight because it's never been over here, and it sits a little different, I guess, on the door. But just trying to get it in place and run those screws in. Okay, we got those screws right in for that guy. Now I'm gonna move this little plate over to this other side. Put the 2 screws in for that. And the other part of this door we can do after it's on, so I'm not going to do it quite yet. When you're running these screws in, the top screw is just right in a hole, but the bottom screw here is in a little bit of a cutout, so you can move this little hinge piece just to get it to line up. So put those screws in, and I'll put the emblem on after so we can make sure we get it on straight, but now we have to do the fridge door. All right, so on the fridge door here, all we have to do is move over this piece just like we did on the bottom of the freezer door. Stopper, I guess, is what you'd call it. So we'll just transfer that over, and then we'll have to flip the door over. We've already got most of the pieces in place from before we took the door off. Now you can do any of this in really any order you want. You just have to make sure that you're transferring everything from one side over the other side, and that's it. It's a pretty easy thing to do. All right, so we're gonna stick this door on. So basically we just line up the hole on the bottom of the door with this little piece that's sticking up here. You might have to actually feel under there and try to figure out where it's supposed to be exactly. But yeah, sometimes you get lucky and it just falls on like that. We have to put this piece, back in the top of this door. So put that in there. It's gonna wanna squish a little bit. So you might have to push in on the door just a hair because the gasket on this side is not used to being quite that tight. Then we'll take our 3/8 and run this back in, making sure that it goes in nicely. Like, it should not be tough whatsoever. If it's tough, you're probably stripping it. So now, without doing anything else, we see the fridge opens the other way. So we'll put that handle on there. Slide you guys over. All right. So the handle, once again, just slides in there. And then we'll put these 2 screws in the top of the handle. And yeah, we're 3/4 of the way done. You guys are doing good. Don't make these screws too tight because these handles are just plastic and you can bust them. Make it tight enough that it's not gonna be loose and flailing all over the place when you're trying to open the door. But so now we have a door that swings the other way. When you do this all, you can tell how your door is sitting by how this gasket is actually meeting up against this piece and the sides. You can tell if your door is kind of on there wonky. If there's any drag on the bottom of the door, you can feel the door drag against the fridge, but This feels really good. That's probably why they had those shims in there, is just to stop that from happening. All right. So the freezer door we've already done, so we can throw that back on. I'll go grab that. And once again, just lining up the hole with that little tab sticking up there. Okay, so yeah, I just moved that little plug over to this other side. Now we're gonna put the top hinge into that hole there. This is where you get a lot of movement, is the freezer door. So when we put these screws in, we'll have to just make sure that everything's kind of lined up right, or that door can sit on there a little funny. So what you're going to want to look at is the top of the fridge and where, you know, this line runs along. Just use your eye, and the sides, it should look fairly straight. The biggest way to tell is between the fridge door and the freezer door. So right here, you can tell just the width. These handles are almost touching on this side. I don't really like that, so I'm gonna push this side up a little bit. So you got quite a bit of movement there. And I'm just gonna hold it up and tighten those right there. These ones you can make sure they're pretty tight. All right. So I'm gonna stick the emblem back on to the other side. Make sure that's fairly straight. Okay. Now, these two plugs that we took out of this side right here can go over here. And put this cap back on. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys, you know, if you need your fridge, this done to your fridge, you can do it yourself. Just follow along what I did, and yeah, have a great day. See you again.